So first of all, just a gentle reminder that the webinars take me up to a day to do altogether, including the editing. So if you like this webinar, then after it you can go and make a donation, either a regular donation or a one-off donation to help pay for the webinar. And that helps pay for all of our time on a pay what you want basis. That means you don't have to put everything behind a paywall. Okay. So today I was going to talk a bit about the point of a community, which I know must seem really weird to do right now because you're all in it. But I realise that often we sit on the community and we read things and we post things, but we're never quite sure why. We know it's important, but we're not quite sure what that important thing is, what its purpose is, how it might be helping us achieve our goal. So I thought today was a really good chance to talk about that. So you may know already that the Club Soda community has value to you. You might pop in every now and again, you might ask a question and get some advice, you might see other people's stories and feel inspired by them. But you may also wonder why some people are really active and you mostly lurk. You may find yourself dipping in and out and not really constantly looking and not sure why and wondering whether that's the right or the wrong thing to do. You may find that you might lapse and feel embarrassed about coming back to the group. One member last week was a bit like that. She said, oh no, it's been terrible. I feel like I've let everybody down. I don't want to come back. And that's also a very natural feeling, but not sure why that matters so much. This is a whole group of strangers. Who cares? And why some people find the community really useful, but why actually only out of 10,000 members that we've got, only 2,500 of you are really active on the community. So I thought I'd touch on some of those things today and also some things we've learned about being part of the community. And if you've got any questions, you can put those underneath the video, and I now have managed to work out how to look at my phone at the same time as using this piece of software, and so I can keep an eye on what's going on. And there we are. So ask any questions that you've got and I will be able to pick them up now, unlike future past weeks
on Facebook, and hoping that someone...
but without the sound. Technically nearly so brilliant, but so very far away. But hey, there we go. So right, let me get on to the subject. So why do some people find the online community useful and some don't? Well, you might not know that we use behaviour change science to underpin what we do in Club Soda. In fact, it's the thing that makes us different to AA. Although AA does have behaviour change behind it in some ways, it's a 12-step programme that suggests that you go through all 12 steps at some point in time. And it's about continually resisting alcohol, whereas our approach is a behaviour change approach that says that you need, for the long term, to not want alcohol, and that to do that you need to start to change all the associated behaviours that you have with it, things that may be hardwired over many years, rituals that you might have gone through, times where alcohol triggers you. You need to learn how to change that behaviour. And we use something called University College London's Behaviour Change Taxonomy. They've actually got a really useful app that I use all the time. So if you want to go and Google in the App Store, I think it might only be on Apple, UCL's BCT, Behaviour Change Taxonomy, you can look at that. And that taxonomy is basically 96 behaviour change techniques that you can use, all the way from just saying something to you. So maybe somebody will say to you, do you think you might drink too much? That in itself is a behaviour change technique, somebody raising your worrying behaviour with you, all the way through to fining people for behaviour. So, you know, parking tickets are a behaviour change technique. Whether you like it or not, it's one of the very punitive ones. Now, we don't use all those behaviour change techniques, as you may have realised, but what we do know is that the more behaviour change techniques you use at one time, the more likely you are to change, which is why, for example, goal setting and actually setting out a goal and a plan is really helpful. Why changing things about your environment at the same time is also really helpful, while talking to other people and peers is really helpful. If you just say, well, I'm going to moderate today, without a plan, without doing anything to modify your environment, without maybe talking to anybody about it, then all you've done is expressed an intention, which is a behaviour change technique in its own right, but you've not added more behaviour change techniques around it. So we know that if you use more than one behaviour change technique at a time, you're more likely to be successful. Now, none of those have to be about engaging with other people. If you're the sort of person who says, right, I'm going to read 50 books on the subject, I'm going to make a plan, I'm going to think about it in my own head, and I'm going to make that happen. Absolutely wonderful. We're all different, so it takes different things for different people. But actually, a large proportion of the behaviour change techniques in the taxonomy are all things that involve engaging with other people. So, for example, we learn from others. It's called vicarious learning, not precarious learning, as I typed to a friend the other day, although sometimes it can feel like that. But we learn from others. We learn from others' experiences. And you can only do that by engaging with other people or talking to people. But there's probably a good dozen of the behaviour change techniques in this taxonomy that all involve engaging with other people. So as far as I'm concerned, being part of a community is a super behaviour change technique. A bit like a superfood. It's got there's a lot of nutritional content. There's a lot of behaviour change techniques all in one go by being part of an online community. So I talked about vicarious learning, but also the morning check-in post that we do at 5:30 allows many of you to be accountable, allows you to check in for the day and say maybe anything that went up wrong yesterday, but allows you to come and say, actually, today I'm not drinking, today I've made this plan for myself, today I'm not drinking. It allows you to get a little bit of inspiration, but it allows you to immediately engage with other people without actually having to go and do a really long post yourself, but just by saying morning on a post. So that in itself, that accountability post, as we would call it, is a really good part of being part of a community. Being accountable to the community is amazing. Being able to come in every week and just say, I've done another week, I've done another day, is a really powerful behaviour change technique. You get feedback on your behaviour. So often it can feel, if you're not doing so well, it can often feel very overwhelming when lots of people say, I've got to 3 months, I've got to 10 days, I've got to a milestone. It can feel like everybody is hitting a milestone apart from you. Two reasons for that, really. One is that Facebook algorithm means that what you see in the Club Soda community isn't linear. It's not a time-based feed. It's based on a number of people who comment on a post. And of course, when we post that we've got a milestone, something amazing happens. We get feedback from the community, which is really, really important. I've realised how important feedback is for me, actually, positive feedback. But it's really important that people put their milestones and get that feedback and get the positive, well done, you can do it, you can get there. But it also means that the positive milestone posts zoom up the top of the Club Soda posts, and those that seem to be struggling might feel left behind. It's worth knowing that, because it's something that we can't change about Facebook, which I would really love to, but it's important that you know the importance of celebrating milestones, but not that we forget you if you haven't achieved one, right? And that's really important. I'll come on to that. Because the other thing we do is encourage you back on the wagon after a lapse. So if you've had a lapse, and lots of you do post, you tell us, which is really, really important, because we can all share with you that we've been there and done that ourselves, that the one thing that we found was useful was really getting back on it and not letting it drift. These were the techniques that we all took to get back on the wagon. And look, it may take a number of day ones, lots and lots of day ones, but the more you go, the more you persevere, the better it will be. You won't get that from a book. You won't get that immediate community understanding, feedback straight away from a book. So that's why that's important, whether you're celebrating a milestone or whether you're struggling with something. I'm just going to check there aren't any questions. Cool. The other thing about a community that's really powerful, and that's what makes it a super behaviour change technique, is that you can get that support when you're feeling vulnerable. And because we're in an online community, that can be quite immediate, which is why I'm really pleased actually that we have friends on the group from Australia and from America, because those slight time differences, and people who get up early in the morning and people who stay up late, but those time differences mean that actually now we're of a size that always somebody is there. So you can go on, and it may not be as many as if you went on in the afternoon, which is actually the peak time. for our community, but you will get a response and it will feel immediate and you will feel nurtured and you will feel cared for. And you are. That's what the community is about. We are a group of people who understand how you feel. And so you can get that immediate feedback. And that social support that we give you can both be empathetic, which means we can go, we understand. And it can also be very practical. This is what happened when it happened to me. This is the things that you could do. Have you thought about doing A, B, and C? And for some of you who have had to try and really navigate some really difficult situations, it's that shared experience and hearing from others that really, really helps. We could also compare our behaviour with each other. Now, it's really interesting because when it comes to alcohol, when we were drinking, or when we are drinking, we are continually comparing ourselves with other people. Be that going, well, I don't drink as much as Frank, so I must be okay. Or if I just pace myself with Sharon this evening, I should be okay. I don't think I drink more than so and so, and so on. We spend a lot of time trying to justify our own drinking, and maybe even choosing our drinking partners who drink a lot so that we can make sure our comparison is favourable. We also do it as a nation. We spend our time going, oh, well, we don't drink like the French or the Spanish or the Italians. They've got a whole different culture. Well, they might do, guys. They've also got a lot of liver disease as well. It's not something unique to Britain. We just happen to be very worried about it, write about it a lot, and also have different words for it. So we use comparison a lot when we're drinking to justify our behaviour. So it makes sense that we also use comparison to make our behaviour better, which means you can do a bit like Janet a few months ago said. It was being able to see people that were further along the trail than her that made her think, I want to be there in a year's time. And that's also quite powerful too. It means that you know it's possible. You know that having seen a Gertlush like me finally give up drinking, it is possible for you too. Which comes on to another really important tool, which is that we see role models in other people. We see people we want to copy. We see people that are actually beginning to be really happy being alcohol free and don't feel that they're being denied and missing out. And being able to see those people a bit further along the road is really, really important to do that. Also getting approval from each other is really good. You might not have people close to you at home who can go to you, you've got to 10 days without drinking, that's amazing, because you might not really want them to know how difficult 10 days is for you. But here you can get that approval, you can get that reassurance. And there's also a bit about road testing a new identity. So much of who we are is tied up in our drinking habits, particularly when we're heavy drinkers, which is what most of us are in this group. We know that we've shaped our lives around alcohol, that there are behaviours that we have and things that we do that are all about making sure that we've got more alcohol. Jo was talking this morning about how she used to do this big Sunday lunch business, cooking for the whole family, but actually it was an excuse to spend the whole day drinking and then drinking more after the meal because she felt she had hunted, gathered and cooked for her family, and therefore this was her reward, was to drink some more. And actually she'd realised that she had focus her whole Sundays around a tradition that was an excuse for her to drink. And now she has to rethink who she is, and she's rethinking herself as somebody who takes time on a Sunday for herself and lets everyone else get their own lunch, which I think is really cool. But she's managed to road test that identity in the community first. So it's a nice safe space to do that in as well. So this is why I think being part of a community is a super behaviour change technique, and it's up to you how much you engage in all of those things, and it's and to use the group how you want. Let me just get to the next bit. The other thing that's really important, and you might have noticed this because people like Jo and Jill and Janet and everyone beginning with the letter J seems to have Charlotte, there we are, fantasy, Sam Chambers, loads of others, have all managed to actually get quite a lot of time under their belt, but are still hanging around in a community. Why would they do that, you think? Well, actually, that's because it helps us maintain our goal. Helping other people, being role models for other people is also a really important part of maintaining your behaviour change. And I guess a really good comparison on this is, when we often know that people, after they've gone on a diet, people as if they're other people. Me, like when I go on a diet and lose a load of weight, I get to a point where I then take my foot off the accelerator. Some of us have done this with alcohol too. Go, it's okay now, I'm a healthy eater. And then we finally find that the weight's all piled back on. And everyone talks about how difficult it is to maintain a healthy weight. Well, it's the same in Club Soda. Even after 5 years, there are things that trigger me, still things that make it difficult for me. But one of the things that helps me maintain the lifestyle that I've chosen is the fact that I feel I'm a role model to you guys, that I will let you down if I drink again, and that continually helping other people and saying, you know what, it is possible. It may feel hard, it may feel really difficult, but it is still possible for you to do this. And I'm an example, and I want to stay this way because I think it's really important for you and who you're going to be in the future to achieve your goal as well. So that's why people stick around for a long while as well. So it all makes sense. All makes sense. We don't want to be the people that, just go back to square one. Okay, just checking about any questions. See, I've got this whole method licked now. So how can you use the online community to your benefit? Well, I was about to say that there are no hard and fast rules, but you would have seen we put some new community rules up in the file section a while ago. For those of you who haven't looked at it for a while, do go in and have a look. Part of those rules has been built from learning how things work now in a community of this size, how people behave in a space, what happens when we're all in a bit of a mardy mood and things don't go so well, how easy it is for us to misinterpret each other, and I'll come on to some of that in a minute. But really, when I say that there are no hard and fast rules, it means that you don't have to do some things just because other people are doing them. We've actually got a very high engagement rate for a online community. Normally it's only 1% of people who engage, and the rest, some people engage, 9% engage occasionally, and the rest just lurk. Actually, Club Soda's got a really high engagement rate. I can't remember what it was when we looked last time. But there's still a high proportion, well up into about 80%, who don't ever say anything and may occasionally just chime in. That is perfectly fine, because reading what other people talk about, reflecting that behaviour in yourself is a really important way to use the community, even if you don't engage. So there's some other things that you don't have to do if you don't want to. You don't have to respond to the welcome messages if you don't want to. It's been, and me and you had another debate about this again today, about whether we should do welcome messages or not. But we've decided still that it's the friendliest way to welcome people into the group, let them know the expectations of the group through the way that we message, to encourage people to want to post. It won't be for everybody. Some people find they're in the wrong group and feel really annoyed that they've been exposed by just dipping in and then dipping out, but hey, that happens. You also don't have to post anything in the group if you don't want to. That's absolutely fine. If all you ever want to do is watch these videos, read what people write, read the blogs, absolutely fine. You also don't have to respond to anything in the group. So people might ask for help. You don't have to respond to that. You don't have to stay either. If you want to leave, you can. Oh my God, what if loads of people leave now after this webinar? I might actually take that quite personally. Can you just not all leave at once? But you don't have to stay if you don't want to. You also don't have to stay away. So if you've left and you want to come back, you can come back. There's no shame in it. It's happened loads. I left the group once. I was in a really, 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 really bad mood, and it was all hard work, and I'm poor, and it's a bit annoying being poor all the time, and I was annoyed with everything. So I left the group, and then Joe and Jill took the piss out of me on whether they should let me back in, whether they should welcome me. Yeah, whatever. So, it happens. So you don't have to stay away if you don't want to. You don't have to apologise for posting. Quite often I see people say, oh, sorry for posting, or sorry if this is oversharing. You don't have to apologise. You can always go back and edit a post if you're not happy with it afterwards, but you also don't ever have to apologise in this group. And you never need to put long post alert at the start of your post. I've decided. It doesn't matter how long your posts are. You know, it's fine. This is your space to do all of that with. So those are some things that actually, you know, you should feel no pressure to do anything particular in this group. Then, so Barbara says, oh, the link to the rules doesn't work. I will have a look. Thank you for letting me know that. Yeah, it's a really good thing to do. So to get the best out of the online community, tell me when things don't work. You don't always have to point out my spelling mistakes, my grammar mistakes. UC just did an edit of the blog for this webinar, and you know, his one sole contribution was to put an apostrophe in where I had forgotten one. I don't think that's necessary. But there are some other things that will help you get the best out of this community. First is to remember that no one here can solve your problems for you, as much as we would love it. Honestly, I would love it if someone could take me away and make me fit. Somebody would take me in task and make it happen. But the more I do Club Soda and the more I've learned about how I've changed my drinking, the more I realise that actually no one can do it for you. It takes you having 100% commitment to make change happen. And if you feel that you can't manage it yet, or you're not doing very well, or you're getting to too many days one, it's because you really need to start to work on that commitment to yourself, so that you can go about changing it. It may mean that you need to change some underlying issues underneath that need sorting. So the obvious thing that you look at is the alcohol, but underneath it may be issues around your feelings of self-worth. It may be issues around how you react to certain things or certain stimuli or certain people. But ultimately, you still have to solve that. You are the only person that can do that. However, we can listen, we can understand, we can empathise as a group, but you are still the guardian of your own destiny. And we know you can do it because we've done it. And we're not some amazingly super talented people who have got cast iron willpower. I have absolutely bugger all willpower. I don't think actually willpower exists. I think commitment exists. And I certainly had a commitment to not want to feel as ill as I was doing and not to die early like my dad. So that's quite a strong impetus. But I haven't got some magical, special superpower called willpower. What I had was a commitment to change that I couldn't carry on any longer as I was. And so don't think other people in this group are somehow better than you, because they're not. I'm hoping I'm still moving. Thanks, Heidi, for letting me know that I've frozen for you. It might be the internet either end, but I'm going to carry on because it normally evens itself out. The other is you listen to the advice and take what you need. We are all different people. We have all got different circumstances. Some of us have got children. Some of us live in a village. Some of us are divorced. Some of us are not straight. Some of us are working, and some of us aren't. Oh my God, we're all so different, right? And so we will all have our own experiences of where we've gone to and what we've done. And when we respond to posts, we do so from our own knowledge, from our own experience. It may not suit you, and so you're free to pick and choose what advice you take. So don't get angry if people suggest things that aren't right for you. They can't possibly know all of your circumstances, but just skip over it and take the bits that you need. But remember that there are people that have been down the same path as you, ahead of you. And more than ever now, in the 2.5 years this group has been going, more than ever, I realise that people's advice is pretty good that have been further down the path. And the area where people are most right is around complacency, which is that when people have got 10 days, 20 days and gone, I think I've got this sorted now, I'm going to have a drink. And then it all unravels. That is the thing where people's advice is normally quite right, but we don't take it either. And it's probably right that we don't take it either, because we have to learn ourselves about really how long change might take in this circumstance. So it's one of those really weird things where I feel slightly frustrated, and some people might feel slightly frustrated going, please don't try and moderate. No, not yet. Give yourself 6 months, give yourselves a year. But I guess in some respects, it's an experience you need to go through, but then come back and tell the group. Don't stay away from the group. Come back and tell the group and go, right, okay, I get what you mean now. How do I pick this up again and get back on track? It's, yeah, for me, that's the most interesting area of behaviour change that we go through when we're trying to change our drinking. Be generous to how you respond, but also how you read posts. And I recognise this most in myself overall, which is I am really harsh and horrible to you all, in my view, when I am most tired and most grumpy and most hungry. Basically, that's it. So my emotions affect how I read your posts and how I respond. So how I write is affected by my mood, which means that at any point in time, there are a whole load of moods going on in the community. And how somebody's written something is based on how they feel at that point in time. They're feeling, lost and sad and lonely and unhappy and maybe tired. And that's affected the way they've written something. And then how I respond to that is affected by how I feel, which is mostly where all the conflict happens in our group, because it's not because people's intention was wrong. It's because we've all been in our own mood and read things in a particular way or written things in a particular way. So try and be generous of spirit, pause, and just try and remember the intent of what somebody's written. Well, it sounds like they need a bit of help here, or they may sound a bit judgy, but I don't think that's the intention. If you're not sure, clarify. And then I think we'll get to a place where a few of the disagreements that happen don't happen so often. But also, sometimes we're so anxious about somebody else in the group that we pile in with so much advice. I often think it looks overwhelming. So also think, is there enough advice here today? Do I need to interject now, or can I leave it for another day? We're eager to help each other, which I absolutely love, but sometimes I think, I hope the person who asked the advice is okay. So if you're the person who gets overwhelmed, take that with love and affection and generosity. People care. We've got to know each other in this group, and we care about each other. Do share your milestones and achievements. Just because we know that the algorithms mean that people with problems get lost the most in the group, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't post your milestones. In fact, you really should post your milestones if it's a particular or a particular event or particular success. So if you manage to go out and only drink 2 glasses and you've managed that for 3 weeks in a row, then tell us about it. If you've managed to deal with a difficult situation, if you've managed to have a difficult conversation with somebody sober, if any of those things, tell us about them. It's really important that you get that positive reassurance that you're doing the right thing and that you're moving forward. And don't forget, and don't let that put you off if you're struggling. Just remember, we are in our own little worlds. And so if you're struggling, you must also post, because that's what the group's here for. And then also help us manage the group by reporting any posts that you think are going a little bit haywire, are going a bit off topic, where somebody sounds, where some of the language has gone a bit astray, or there's an inappropriate video. It's absolutely fine for you to report it by clicking the top right hand button. And I say all of these things because these are the things that keep the group feeling friendly. Now, it's impossible for us to have a completely 100% friendly group, because we're all people, we're all individuals, and we all have things going on in our lives, and sometimes, like I said, we react based on that emotion. But I thought that when we set up this group that we would just let it run itself, and we would be quite hands off, because we're all adults and we should be able to be okay with that. But as time's worn on, I'm really glad that we've actually actively managed this group, and we do that in order to keep it a happy place, and so that that if something's really upset you, or that something isn't quite right, that somebody can deal with it and that you're not fully exposed. Social media can be a really weird place. So I'm actually really glad that we've actively managed the group, because I think us doing that helps you achieve your goals. And if I come back to what I talked about at the beginning, about how community is the superpower of all behaviour change techniques, then I want this to work for you as much as possible within the constraints that Facebook gives us. And we really do absolutely flex them as much to the max as we can. I don't think Facebook particularly like groups. But then they do all sorts of weird things to stop us doing things in the groups. But we really do utilise it as much as possible. But it doesn't mean there are also some constraints. But it's important because this is a behaviour change technique. This is a way of delivering a whole big bunch of behaviour change techniques at one go that can help you achieve your goal. And so maybe you can think about the group a bit differently now, and actually be a bit cutthroat and ruthless about it, right? Go, right, how is this group going to help me get to where I want to be? Am I going to post? Am I going to do pictures? Am I going to do daily updates? Am I going to tell people when I get to my goal? Am I going to ask advice? Am I going to use it in a particular way? Am I going to set up local socials and get together with some of the other people local to me? How can I use this group to maximise my chances of success? You're absolutely free to think of the group in that way and actually add it into your WOOP plan, your wish, your obstacle, your wish, your outcome, your obstacle and your plan. So this could be part of your plan. How can you use this group to help you overcome some obstacles, like not having someone to talk to about this stuff, about having a particular event planned for, about feeling a certain way? You can build this group into your plan perfectly fine, and actually a really powerful thing to do. Like club soda is like the kale of changing your drinking. That's how we should see it. Kale and blueberries. Maybe I'll find a picture of kale to add to the picture for the blog. Maybe I might do that afterwards. Cool. Right. I'm just going to go on to some questions. So yes, some of you have talked about complacency. It's a real killer. And in fact, if there's one pattern of behaviour of people changing their drinking habits that I have noticed most of all, is the fact that complacency happens to nearly everybody at one point or time. And as much as we can go, no, don't go there, somehow you need to experience it for yourself. But then we also need to not let you experience it too often. We need to remind you that this is a learning point and this is what is happening. It's complacency. Sometimes giving a name to it makes you understand it a bit more, and often when you think you've got it licked, complacency is what it is. Cool. Cool. I think that's nearly all of the questions. But if you've got ideas on how you think we can do better in the group or manage the group better, or things that we can do that would help you, then tell us, because this is a learning curve for us too. And this group should evolve and should change and should develop. The other thing I just want to say is to thank our admins. So you know that there's probably about 15 people altogether who admin the group. Me and Lucy are 2 of them, but the rest are also Club Soda members who spend time welcoming people, keeping an eye on things, telling me when people have disappeared off the group that they might be worried about, so I can get in touch. They get in touch with people themselves because they're friends with some people too. All lots of really what seem like low-level stuff, but really take quite a lot of time. So I just want to thank those people that do that now. I'm not going to name all of them because A, this will go on YouTube, and B, you can see who they are if you go into members and admins. It will show you who the admins of the group are. Always happy for you to refresh in your mind who they are. The other thing is if you want to become an admin, you can do, and let me know if you're interested, although I may not get back to you till after the 13th of August, after the festival. Oh my God, if I'm still alive. Oh my God, why do I do such stupid things? Anyway, and also that this group does take a lot of time to admin, both from me and Lucy's side as well as the volunteers. You know, there's a good couple of days of full-time work here between all of us in keeping this group happy and well-mannered and helpful and useful for everybody. So I wanted to let you know that as well. But, you know, we all take our part in it, even those that aren't officially admins. You tell me when things need sorting out, you give me ideas, and that's all really important. This community works better when we all are invested in it to some degree. So I'm sort of coming to the end, but I'm also going to just remind you about the festival. If any of you can come on the 13th of August, then please do. even if you can just come for an hour, it would be a great help to me to show that I have some friends. Oh my God, what if no one comes? This is the thing that's frightening me the most. Why do I do such stupid things? I get event anxiety at the best of times, and now I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Anyway, so even if you can come for an hour, you'd be really welcome. Bring lots of friends. If you can't come yourself, if you're in another Facebook group, which I know you all are, so don't lie to me. I know that you see other groups. Feel free to tell them about it. I'm perfectly fine that you see others, but do share it in the other groups that you're in. Do share it if you're on Twitter and Facebook and everything. Do share it as widely as you possibly can. If you've got a work newsletter and you work in London, share it on that as well. Anything I can do, I can send you posters, the works. Anyway, that's my little plea for today. Thank you all. I'm just trying to check. I will give you a link to the rules. I'm sure I had updated them the other day, but I just need to check that. So thank you for letting me know. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it there.